I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, book review. So this is a review of the book, not the movie. Although it was the fact that the movie was coming out which inspired me to read this book. So right about the time this movie hit theaters, I had a friend, co-worker, who went to see the movie, and he came back into the office the next day and complained. He said, the book was so much better, and the book had this amazing ending, and the movie, they didn't stick with the original amazing ending of the book. He said, I think the way he phrased it was they kind of lost the guts, or they didn't have the guts to go with the original ending that was in the book. And I was listening to him talk, and I was kind of toying with the idea of seeing the movie myself, and then I thought, I'll just buy the book instead. So I bought the book, and actually to this day I have not seen the Will Smith movie, although, I'm not writing it off. I might get around to it someday, but as of now I've never seen the Will Smith movie. Anyways, the book I bought, went to the bookstore, was the one that was a tie-in with the Will Smith movie. So, it was the original book, or the original story, I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, but it had Will Smith on the cover, and now a major motion picture, those kind of tie-in books. I didn't realize this until I got it home, but I Am Legend is not actually a whole book. It's 160 pages. And so to kind of pad out the book and make it look like a full-length book, they include a lot of short stories, also by Richard Matheson. They don't tell you this on the cover, though. Like, if you look at the cover of the book, nowhere does it say, I Am Legend and a bunch of other short stories. Slightly dishonest marketing of the movie tie-in version of this book. They want you to think that you're buying a full novel, but it's really more of a novella, 160 pages. Granted, that complaint is only unique to this edition, the movie tie-in edition. That marketing complaint aside, though, the story is awesome. And, 160 pages is actually just about the right length. I mean, I'm not upset that the book cover was dishonest, but 160 pages is about the right length for this story. It's long enough that you can kind of get involved in the story and the characters. It's not like a short story. You can get immersed in the world a little bit. But it's short enough that you can finish it off in a couple of days. And actually, a couple of days is me being a slow reader. You could probably finish it off in an afternoon if you wanted to. Now, it's a vampire story, although it's kind of a strange vampire story, because a lot of the vampires in this story are really more like zombies. It's kind of like a zombie story, but they're called vampires. There's actually two stories in this book. There's kind of the forward-going story, and then there's the backstory. So one is Robert Neville's struggle to survive, and the other is the story of how the world got covered with vampires in the first place. So, one of those kind of backstories that's interspersed with flashbacks. Both stories are delightfully eerie and told with just the right combination of the ordinary, the attention to ordinary detail, and a kind of a spooky macabre. The book reads like Stephen King. Kind of. The tone is very much like Stephen King. It's a lot more tightly plotted than one of Stephen King's books would be. Stephen King's plots are usually a mess. But the tone is very reminiscent of Stephen King. Which is interesting because this book was published all the way back in 1954. But, I guess it's a reminder that Stephen King did not invent the modern horror genre. There was a lot of this stuff going on in the 30s, 40s, 50s, long before Stephen King. And in fact, Stephen King has openly acknowledged Richard Matheson as one of his influences. So, there you go. Yeah, and then the ending, huh? I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah, my friend was not wrong. The ending is a real shocker here. The last two chapters of the book managed to put everything that came before it in a completely different light. That's all I'm going to say. As I read this book, I was reminded at times of an old Charlton Heston movie that I once saw on TV long ago called The Omega Man. And then I looked this up on Wikipedia, and it turns out that The Omega Man was based off of I Am Legend. So I guess I Am Legend, even before the Will Smith movie, had been the basis for kind of some other Hollywood movies. So there you go. About the rest of the short stories that kind of pad out my edition, I really don't know what to say. I mean, aside from reviewing every single one of them, some of them were really great, some of them were a little bit dry, but without kind of getting into every single short story, I'll just leave it there. In conclusion, I think the book was still worth the price tag, even though I kind of got tricked into buying a different book than I thought it was. The 160 pages of I Am Legend are good enough that it was worth purchasing the whole book for.